स्वागत है सीएनबीसी बाजार पर और शुरुआत करेंगे सर Q3 वॉल्यूम्स और रेवेन्यू डिक्लाइन होता हमने देखा ऑन वाई बेसिस, येट एबिटा एक इम्प्रूवमेंट दिखा रहा है ऑन क्यू बेसिस। क्या की ड्राइवर्स रहे सर बिहाइंड दिस मार्जिन रिकवरी?
या तो सबसे पहले Q3 के परफॉर्मेंस में हमारा सेल्स वॉल्यूम जो नीचे आया थोड़ा मार्जिनल लास्ट ईयर के थर्ड क्वार्टर के कंपैरिजन में। मेन फैक्टर्स उसके पीछे है दैट एज वी नो विच इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ मैक्रो फैक्टर्स। As we know, US market की tariff had a big impact on overall supply chain and also on many markets across this, particularly for the packaging films too. So more specifically, we have seen that one, there was subdued demand in the US market, and also in Indian market, there was both for BOPP and BOPET segment, there was increased price pressure on account of increased imports. So together, this meant that there was a impact on the overall sales volume, which was not very acute, but close to about 3.7% if we compare with the third quarter of last year. Now, at the same time, we worked on our operational stabilization. We worked on various cost control measures, and we also worked on operational efficiency. As a combination of all that, we could manage a significant improvement in our EBITDA margin, which, to be specific, about 2%, 200 basis point. And overall, from 10.1% for this period, it improved to 12.1%. So, and now, in fact, one more thing, as we see in the current quarter, हमारा ऐसा मानना है, and which is very clear also from the overall landscape, is that now that trend is stabilizing. We see with the US tariff-related uncertainties behind us, the demand picking up, and also in other markets that we operate in. As you know, UFlex is a global player operating in almost all major continents. We see that impact also being visible in Middle East, also in Europe and India. And as a combination of that, हमारा ये मानना है कि Q4 और अच्छा होगा और अगले फिस्कल FY26-27 में I think this will be very pronounced trend that we'll be able to see.
जी सुमित सर, आगे समझना चाहेंगे सेल्स वॉल्यूम एक डिक्लाइन होता हम देख रहे हैं 6.2% QQ एंड 3.7% YOY। ये जो है डिमांड स्लो डाउन जो देख रहे हैं, क्या रीज़न है सर? प्राइसिंग प्रेशर या फिर कस्टमर डीस्टॉकिंग, वो समझना चाहेंगे।
I think I'm very glad that you mentioned the major factors which were important for accounting for this dip in volume temporarily. So this is a combination of inventory destocking. It was a combination of subdued demand, and also, as very rightly pointed out by you, it was also due to import-related, lower price import-related pressure. But at the same time, it is very important to know that while for the quarter at 1,51,000 tons ka sales volume, is 3.8% dip over the corresponding quarter of last year and 6% over the previous quarter. But overall, I think it's important to also note that for 9-month period, for 3 quarters combined of this year, we are at 483,000, which in fact is a shade better than last year's 3 quarters. So overall, when we look at 9-month performance, हमको ऐसा लगता है कि at 483,000, 4,83,000 के लेवल पे हमने अगर despite this challenging quarter, if we have been able to sustain that, I think it looks good for as an outlook moving forward.
जी, आगे जानना चाहेंगे सर, कौन से एंड यूजर सेगमेंट्स जो है वो भी शो कर रहे हैं अर्ली साइंस ऑफ रिकवरी इन FY26?
Yeah. So FY26 में हम fourth quarter में हैं. What in fact I would like to give a perspective is that number one, within this performance of quarter and 9 months, we, in fact, when we try to go little more dissect this whole thing, largely the 3 segments of packaging films, which were impacted by a combination of factors, as you pointed out, we talked about. And the second segment of flexible packaging, in fact, despite this, has held firm. Rather, it has shown a volume growth as well as the value growth. And at the same time, aseptic for the quarter has shown a 2.3% year-on-year growth in quarter in terms of volume. And for the 9 months, it has shown a 5% plus growth. So overall, we think that on one hand, while flexible packaging and value-added products along with aseptic or liquid packaging will be the growth drivers, but largely the stabilization and recovery in the packaging film as the third segment, overall, I think as a combination of these two being growth drivers and other things being normal, should look as much better prospect for us.
जी सर, इंटरनेशनल रेवेन्यू जो अभी कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है कंपनी के लिए 56%, कौन सी ज्योग्राफीज जो है यहाँ से इस ग्रोथ को ड्राइव कर रही है?
जैसा कि आपको मालूम है that UFlex in fact has a global footprint and we are present in total 9 countries including India. And as rightly noticed by you that there has been a gradual shift of higher contribution of the overseas business, both in revenues and EBITDA. Now 56% हमारी जो revenues है वो overseas से आ रही हैं. और इनफैक्ट अगर हम लास्ट ईयर के सेम पीरियड से देखें सो वी कैन नॉट मिस द ग्रेजुअल शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स हायर कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ ओवरसीज बिजनेस. नाउ मूविंग फॉरवर्ड इट्स आल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट दैट दिस ट्रेंड विल फर्दर एक्सेंचुएट और ये ट्रेंड और विजिबल और डोमिनेंट होगा क्योंकि हमारे दो बड़े प्रोजेक्ट ओवरसीज में इजिप्ट में हमारी सेम साइज की एसेप्टिक लिक्विड पैकेजिंग फैसिलिटी 12 बिलियन पैक्स की कमीशन होने वाली है और साथ में हमारी 80 मिलियन WPP वुवन पॉलीप्रोपिलीन बैग्स की फैसिलिटी मेक्सिको में कमीशन होने वाली है. तो इन दोनों का जब रैंप अप होके हम नियर वी कम एट अ गुड कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन, दोस टू विल फर्दर कंट्रीब्यूट in addition to the increasing shift from overseas business. So for us, I think this trend will continue and rather will accentuate about higher contribution from overseas business and as well as contributing to higher margins.
जी सुमित सर, पैकेजिंग फिल्म्स की अगर बात करें फॉर्म 76% ऑफ वॉल्यूम्स, तो क्या कंपनी ऐसे प्लान कर रही है टू डाइवर्सिफाई फर्दर इनटू हायर मार्जिन प्रोडक्ट्स?
So it's very important to note that even within packaging films, as which contribute 76% of the total, there has been a very conscious strategic shift or a better product mix in the sense that rather than being purely in the plain vanilla film segment, we in fact in almost all major facilities are going for high value-added films, including metallized, alloys, high barrier films, and which definitely is a higher margin. So even within packaging film segment, we would be having a better product mix, going for more higher value-added product. Not to say that that other high value-added products coming from the other two segments that I talked about are going to contribute a lot more. But even within packaging film, this is too large a segment for us to try and go for the best product mix and which will help margins further.
जी सर, लास्टली कपल ऑफ थिंग्स जानना चाहेंगे. एक तो कंपनी कैसे प्रायोरिटाइज कर रही है कैपेक्स बिटवीन एक्सपेंशन, मॉडर्नाइजेशन एंड सस्टेनेबिलिटी?
So while maintenance capex is something which is a routine thing, I will rather focus on the other two segments that for us we are going for a strategic expansion in terms of the geography that we do. And also in terms of the business segments, like for us, expansion in liquid packaging facility outside India was a major expansion. Likewise, I talked about WPP facility, bag making facility, 80 million bag making facility in Mexico. That was an investment which was a strategic investment. So the second segment of expansion and expansion in more strategic areas is the key for us in terms of capex. And likewise, when it comes to sustainability, I think our commitment to sustainability has been absolutely there right through our corporate journey. And now, in fact, we are very happy to see that is now also to a great extent, there are policy initiatives from the government. The rollout is though slightly delayed, pushed out, but it's again in terms of EPR implementation for all the segments that we operate in. Though government has given a slightly extended window of implementation, but at the same time, that commitment remains to do it in next couple of years, next 3 years. And that should mean that our investment in that should hold very good because we have a great head start compared to other recyclable players.
इन सर लास्टली जानना चाहेंगे विथ मैक्रो टेलविंड्स जो हमने बात की, ओवरऑल स्पेसिफिक फैक्टर्स क्या रहेंगे जो सपोर्ट करेंगे ग्रोथ को इन FY27?
So FY27 के पहले, in fact, we will first look at the near term and then we'll see whether that same trend is continuing or rather gaining momentum in FY27. So when I'm talking about FY27, it is not an isolation for the next year, because what we have seen to a great extent, a reversal or stemming of the trend, which was there to some extent impacted our quarter three. Quarter four, thankfully, those things seem to be behind us. We see a great normalization of the market demand. And we expect the same will not only continue, but will gain further momentum. And also with the commissioning of these three large facilities, both for aseptic liquid packaging facility in Egypt, the WPP facility in Mexico, and also our investment, you talked about CapEx in our recycling facility in India. As these three come upstream, we see moving forward FY27 will not only be an organic incremental growth on the existing business, but increased contribution from three near commissioning, once these become operational, will significantly add to additional revenues and EBITDA.
जी सुमित सर, बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ जुड़ के काफ़ी डिटेल्स शेयर किए एंड बेस्ट विशेस फॉर कमिंग क्वार्टर्स। तो आ रही थी आपको